Greetings to everyone. Welcome to CEC lecture. The topic that we shall deliberate upon is World Science Day for Peace and Development. In this lecture, we shall attempt to explain the importance of 10th November, that is World Science Day for Peace and Development. This lecture shall elaborate on the history, important themes of 2019, 2020 and 2021 with reference to World Science Day for Peace and Development on 10th November. This lecture shall also discuss the importance of science with respect to the bigger picture of issues of global governance. Science is a way of thinking much more than it is a body of knowledge. So said Carl Sagan. Science and technology revolutionize our lives, but memory, tradition and myth frame our response, said Arthur M. Schlesinger. Now these two very important references with respect to science shall be utilized in our understanding. As we all know, 10th November is celebrated as World Science Day for Peace and Development. The aim of this day is to highlight the significant role of science in society. This day points towards the need to engage the wider public in debates on emerging scientific issues. It also underlines the importance and relevance of science in our daily lives. This day aims to ensure that citizens are kept informed of developments in science. It also underlines and underscores the role scientists play in broadening our understanding of the remarkable fragile planet we call home and in making our societies more sustainable. The purpose of the World Science Day for Peace and Development is to strengthen public awareness of the role of science for peaceful and sustainable societies. This day aims to promote national and international solidarity for shared science between countries. This day attempts to renew national and international commitment for the use of science for the benefit of societies. It draws attention to the challenges faced by science in raising support for the scientific endeavor. Before we elaborate further on 10th November, World Science Day for Peace and Development, let us begin by understanding what do we mean by science, peace and development. Science, if we take the definition from our research from various online resources like Britannica.com, science is defined as a system of knowledge that is concerned with physical world and its phenomenon, and that entails unbiased observations and systematic experimentation. When we talk about peace, peace implies that there should be no violence. Peace is also seen as with reference to concord, harmony, tranquility. It is also defined as a state of law or civil government, a state of justice or goodness, or a balance of equilibrium of powers. Lastly, development. Development, dear learners, it is a process that creates growth, progress, positive change, which leads to addition of physical, economic, environmental, social and demographic components. United Nations, as we all know, it was a very important international organization found in 1945 after the Second World War. The aim of United Nations is to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations amongst nations and promote social progress, better living standards and human rights. UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, was formed on 16th November 1945. UNESCO, it is a specialized agency of the United Nations. UNESCO's mission, if we read from unesco.org, that is, its mission is to contribute to the building of a culture of peace, of eradication of poverty, sustainable development and intellectual dialogue through education, the sciences, culture, communication and information. UNESCO works to create, once again if you read from unesco.org, conditions for dialogue among civilizations, cultures and peoples based upon respect for commonly shared values. Further, reading from un.org, that it is through this dialogue that UNESCO believes that world can achieve global visions of sustainable development encompassing observance of human rights, mutual respect, alleviation of poverty, of which all are the heart of UNESCO's missions and activities. When we talk about 10th November and UNESCO, that is 10th November World Science Day for Peace and Development, let's go towards the history of this day. When we try to understand the history of World Science Day for Peace and Development, as a positive outcome of the 1999 World Conference of Science on Science in Budapest. The significance of the conference, once again, because the conference gave an opportunity to reaffirm the commitment to attaining goals proclaimed in the Declaration on Science and Use of Scientific Knowledge every year. Once again, when we read from the preamble of the very historically significant conference, that is, it came up with a follow-up on the recommendation of the science agenda, that is a framework for action. As we all know, this conference is very significant. The World Science Conference, World Conference on Science in Budapest 1999, because when we read from the preamble, it tells us about the significant role of science. That is, as we quote from the preamble of the conference, quotes, "We all live on the same planet and are part of the biosphere. We have come to recognize that we are in a situation of increasing interdependence and that our future is intrinsically linked to the preservation of the global life support systems and to the survival of all forms of life. The nations and the scientists of the world are called upon to acknowledge the urgency of using knowledge from all fields of science in a responsible manner to address human needs and aspirations without misusing this knowledge." Further, the preamble says, and we quote, "Scientific knowledge has led to remarkable innovations that have been of great benefit to humankind. But however, the very significant preamble of this conference also cautioned that most of the benefits of science are unevenly distributed as a result of structural asymmetries amongst countries, regions, social groups." Further, we are quoting from the preamble to the World Conference on Science for the 21st Century, a new commitment was there in Budapest, Hungary from 26 June to 1st July 1999 under the aegis of United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization and International Council for Science. In 2001, the World Science Day for Peace and Development was proclaimed by UNESCO. The rationale behind celebrating the day was to focus on the importance or role of science and scientists for sustainable societies and the need to inform and involve citizens in science. On 10th November, if we go by the bylanes of history, on 10th November 2002, the first World Science Day for Peace and Development was celebrated under UNESCO auspice. It involved different partners, several partners including governmental, intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations, UNESCO, National Commission, scientific and research institutions, professional association, the media, science teachers, amongst others. The World Science Day, every year it has a theme. So, in order to understand the significance the day carries, let's now delve towards the themes of the World Science Day for Peace and Development. Now, in order to ensure that our research has a focus towards contemporary aspect, we will now be analyzing the theme of the World Science Day for Peace and Development of 2019, 2020 and 2021. The World Science Day for Peace and Development in the year 2019 had the theme of open science, leaving no one behind. Now, this is a very important issue not only for the scientific community, but the issue of open science is equally important for the non-scientific community as well. What is the importance of open science? That is, policymakers and citizens are increasingly embracing the concept of open science as a tool for making science more accessible, the scientific process more inclusive, and outputs of science readily available. Open science is very important to achieve the sustainable development goals. When we look at open science, it has advantages, that is, with reference to unhindered access to scientific articles, access to data from public research, and collaborative research enabled by ICT tools and incentives. The focus here is that one needs to focus towards the need to broaden access to scientific publications and data. That is the heart of open science. Further, it promotes a more accurate verification of scientific results. Open science reduces duplication in collecting, creating, transferring and reusing scientific material. Further, sharing research that we got with reference to open science advantage from OECD.org, that open science increases productivity in an era where we are saying that the budgets are tightening. Further, it results in great innovation potential, and it promotes citizens' trust in science. Now, the World Science Day for Peace and Development for 2020 focused on the theme that is science for and with society. Now, 2020 is a very significant year because when we look at the context, because this was the time when the world was suffering from COVID-19 pandemic. In that phase, the UNESCO's response to COVID-19, from the scientific perspective, was structured around three major principles. Once again, this is the research information from UNESCO.org. That is, three principles were promoting international scientific cooperation, ensuring access to water, supporting ecological reconstruction. Now, we all know that, when we look at the present time, climate change is indeed having a serious challenge to the lives of billions of people and the planet. Climate change, ozone layer depletion, global warming, loss of biodiversity are important non-traditional new security issues where the threat cuts across all borders. So, similarly, when we look towards 2021, the World Science Day for Peace and Development focuses on celebration, that will highlight the importance of building climate-ready communities. That is, when we try to understand the theme of 2021, that how important role science with respect to peace and development can play, looking at the important challenge, the global governance challenge of climate change, that is highlighting the importance of climate-ready communities. Now, having understood the historical aspect of World Science Day for Peace and Development, the important themes of the year 2019, 2020 and 2021, let's go towards important aspect that what is the importance of science with respect to global governance. Dear learners, for that we take reference to the work by Charles Weiss, and the name of the work is Science, Technology and International Relations, Technology in Society, name of journal, volume 27, issue 3, August 2005. Now, we all know international relations is a discipline that has always focused towards military power. But today the impact of science and technology on international affairs, especially with reference to information and communication technologies, it is pervasive. It should be understood and it cannot be left ignored. This impacts, it needs to be classified through 4 more mechanisms. That is, when we look at the important research inputs from the arguments of Charles Weiss from the journal, we now present it to you, that how science, technology and international affairs now affect each other, which was not the case earlier, because earlier it was primarily seen through the prism of national interest and military. But today things are changing, and how they are changing, once again quoting from the research of Charles Weiss, changing the architecture of international system, its structure, its key organizing principles and the relations amongst its actors. Second, changing the processes by which international system operates, including diplomacy, war, administration, policy formation, commerce, trade, gathering of intelligence, amongst others. Third, creating new issue areas, that is new constraints, trade-offs in the operational environment of foreign policy, a term which includes not only political constraints on international action, but also constraints imposed by the laws of natural and social science, providing a source of changed perceptions of information and transparency for the operation of international system and of new concepts and ideas for international relations theory. So we see that how today, with how the context of IR has changed, with this changing context, science and technology has become an important aspect with respect to change perceptions, with respect to working of technology, with respect to need to upgrade infrastructure, with looking at decision making, actors in expectations, amongst others. An example case study that the work points out is with reference to international environmental governance, that there is an argument that science can play an important role in designing effective international environmental institutions. That is the epistemic community approach originally developed by Peter M. Haas. The focus here is that one must look at importance of science and how consensus-based science can play an independent important role by influencing and even reformulating state interests. And once again, this we are quoting from a very important work, that is, When Does Science Matter? International Relations Meet Science and Technology Studies. So herein we see that today, when we look at an international environmental agenda, there is an argument that one must look at the role of science, one must look at the role of epistemic community, and above all that there can be an attempt through science to factor in consensus. Further, when we look at role of intergovernmental panel on climate change in shaping climate policy, international climate negotiation under United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, this work once again points out that there is a loggerhead and there is a need to understand and analyze that no uniform solution to the problem of how science can influence policy. Science, as well as our studies of science, need to be context sensitive to influence other actors. Epistemic community, that is in international relations, a network of professionals with recognized expertise and authoritative claims to policy relevant knowledge in a particular issue area. We all know that global world, globalization, integration, interdependence led to advantages and added complexities too. Uncertainty about how to respond to these complex problems generates demand for informed advice, and this is where epistemic communities are useful, and this is where, dear learners, once again sciences will be useful. So once again, the World Science Day for Peace and Development, indeed a very significant occasion to spread awareness amongst the public about the role of science for peaceful and sustainable societies, and to need to strengthen efforts to promote national and international solidarity regarding science between countries, people and societies. Dear learners, we hope that the lecture on World Science Day for Peace and Development presented to you significant inputs and insights. We look forward to positive, encouraging feedback from you all. Thank you very much.